Professor Ramesh Chand, member Niti Aayog, who has very kindly consented to speak to us on a very important topic, farm bills, the 3 bills which have been passed by the Parliament and the implications. Because any television channel that you open today, you find invariably the discussion on these bills going on. People who are distantly connected with agriculture, not having any root or understanding, but everybody has something to say on the bills, and everybody has his own or her own perspective. And therefore, this was very important that we cannot have a person better than Professor Ramesh Chand to speak on this topic. Indeed, very, very grateful to you, sir, for kindly agreeing to our request. I would also like to extend a warm welcome to Dr. T.R. Sharma, DDG Crop Sciences, ICR, who has also kindly joined the program. Welcome, Dr. Saab. We are really grateful to you for your presence. And my colleague, Dr. D.K. Yadav, Dr. Ma Singh, and Dr. Viswanathan, Dr. Alka, all colleagues. And in addition to that, I'm also happy to inform you that we have more than 50 fellow farmers of IRI. And these IRI fellow farmers, they are the innovators in themselves, and they have innovated in different fields. And we thought that we can have some representative farmers as IRI fellow also to join this program. And we can see what is their point of view, and if you need some clarification, I must clarify, मैं ये बताना चाहूँगा कि ये प्लेटफॉर्म कोई बहस प्लेटफॉर्म ही है। सिर्फ हम लोग, अगर कोई हमारे मन में शंका है, कोई दुविधा है, जिसमें स्पष्टीकरण चाहते हैं, तो डॉक्टर साहब से हम अनुरोध करेंगे कि सवाल आपके 1-2 जो इससे संबंधित होंगे बिल से, उसको डॉक्टर साहब एड्रेस करेंगे। और इसके साथ मैं डॉक्टर साहब का एक संक्षिप्त परिचय आप हमने देना चाहता हूँ। प्रोफेसर रमेश चंद, जैसा कि आप जानते हैं, देश के ख्याति प्राप्त कृषि अर्थशास्त्री हैं, और डॉक्टर साहब ने नीति आयोग में पिछले टर्म में इस समय लगातार कृषि से संबंधित बहुत सारे रिफॉर्म्स लेकर आए हैं। डॉक्टर साहब ने अपनी शिक्षा जो है बैचलर मास्टर्स डिग्री एग्रीकल्चर में पंजाब एग्रीकल्चर यूनिवर्सिटी से की, और पीएचडी इंडियन एग्रीकल्चर रिसर्च इंस्टीट्यूट IRI से की। And Professor Ramesh Chand has served as National Professor at Indian Council of Agriculture Research, Director at National Institute of Agriculture Economics and Policy Research, Professor at Institute of Economic Growth, University of Delhi, and Professor Punjab Agriculture University, Ludhiana. He has also been visiting professor at the University of Wollongong and Australia, and visiting fellow at Institute of Developing Economics in Japan. He has several recognitions to his credit, awarded with Shri Atal Bihari Vajpayee Award in 2018, Rafi Ahmed Kidwai Award in 2011, and also Jawaharlal Nehru Award for his outstanding PhD research. He is also fellow of National Academy of Agricultural Sciences and several other academies. More importantly, he is a farmer, and on every day-to-day basis, he has his own farm, and he is connected with farming at grassroots level, understands the problem of farmers so well, and also he is in a position to take the policy decision for the welfare of the farmers. It is a great pleasure for me to welcome you, sir. I have had a long association with you right from, when we were staying in Delhi and traveling the chartered bus together, and that was always a pleasure to discuss economics policy, and particularly I remember rice policy when you were writing your first book, Rice Policy for India. It was such a wonderful experience to interact with you, and whenever I request him to come and visit our research program, he is readily available. Once again, I extend a warm welcome to you, sir, and I would request you to, I think, straight for the presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Ashok Kumar Singh, for this wonderful introduction. DDG, my friend Dr. Tilak Sharma, G. Yadav ji, heads of department. I see a couple of them from IRI, Dr. Man Singh, Alka Singh, and couple of others. I remember all of them, but difficult to name all of them. Other participants in this important webinar. And most importantly, I am very happy to note that 50 fellow farmers are also participating. I would love to take their question or anything they need clarification on this, because I feel I owe it to them. They are the stakeholder to be affected by these bills. And so what I intend to do is that intentionally looking into the composition of audience today, I will not go into technical jargon. I will try to explain in simple words about these bills, what was the need for these bills, about different apprehension of these bills, and what is my take that where these bills can take India in coming years. So you know about the three bills. I need not repeat it. That first is a trade and commerce bill, which is primarily focused on agricultural market, APMC market. And second is price assurance and farm service agreement, which is a improvisation of contract farming. And third is Essential Commodity Act modification. The first two are directly related and linked to welfare, prosperity of farmer, of agriculture. They are also going to affect traders, consumers, and the way we do agribusiness and the way we produce agriculture crops and other kind of produce in this country. The third act, Essential Commodity Act, it is not directly targeted at farmers, but it is directed at trade, post-harvest trade in agriculture commodities, post-harvest management of agriculture commodities, and it is again related both to consumer and producer, but it is related indirectly. I start with the simple proposition. Since Dr. A.K. Singh has kept 3 hours, I think I can go at some length, and we also do not get this kind of platform quite often. First of all, what was the need for these acts? Why we want to have these acts? These are not the bills or policy form for sake of reform. So I was able to identify a dozen reasons that why India need to change its present system of agriculture policies. As you all know, India undertook major policy reforms in year 1991. But those reforms cover industry, those reforms cover finance sector, those reforms covered services, but those reforms did not cover agriculture. Initially, it was thought that these reforms are useless. They are going to do a lot of harm to the country, liberalization and all those things. They are being done under the pressure of World Bank and IMF. Therefore, the voice from agriculture expert did not come to say that why you have not done these reforms in agriculture, because it was felt that they are not good even for industry. They have been done. So people kept watching. The initial effect of these reforms was not positive, rather it was slightly negative. It was a period of adjustment, but from 95 onward, people started feeling the positive impact of these reforms. And with the of time, we all know, and that's how we remember Dr. Manmohan Singh, Shri Narasimha Rao, that thank God they controlled and gave new direction to destiny of this nation, that India could be counted in the league of modern economy, emerging economy, rather than sinking into third world kind of economy. So when benefit of these reforms in non-agriculture sector came visible, as a result of which the disparity in our worker or per farmer income, non-farmer income started growing, people realize that we need to ask for not exactly same reform, but required reform in case of agriculture sector also, because we talk of license Raj is finished, inspector Raj is finished. So why these kind of Raj are still there in agriculture? So that articulation, the first paper appeared by Dr. Hanmantha Rao, who was a very balanced person, Hanmantha Rao and Jogulati, 95. Then other people slowly grasped what they were saying, they absorbed what they were saying. There was WTO also, again they protest that we don't want liberalization. So it took some time. By the year 2000, when things stabilized even in respect of WTO, a clear suggestion and recommendation started coming for reform in agriculture. So this was the first that around year 2000, almost all experts started writing in favor of having reform in agriculture. The second big change, which is important for you people and to which you as a scientist and also farmer contributed in a big way, that despite all talk of technology fatigue, etc., Indian agriculture since 90 onward, rather mid 80 onward, is moving on a steady growth rate of 3%. I'm talking of growth trend. It is possible in some year growth went to 1%, another year it came to be 6%, 7%, but I'm talking trend. That the growth has not shown a deceleration. There is a slight acceleration in the last 10 years that it increased from 3% to 3.2%. It is separate matter that many people are still not satisfied. They keep criticizing that agriculture should have grown for 5% or 6%. Still our productivity level are low. That is another matter. I'm saying this 3% steady growth, continuous growth for nearly 35 years under some context. Now that is supply side. Look at what has been happening to demand. Demand in domestic economy comes from two sources. One is what is your rate of growth of population. Second is what is your growth rate in income. They are two sources which create demand. If we look at the first source, population, growth rate of population, which till early 90s was more than 2%, has come down in the recent years. According to UN, it is 1%. According to our own demographic expert, etc., it is around 1.35%. But UN shows that India's growth rate is now rather less than 1%. So it got halved. So 1% growth demand happening because population growth is at that rate, but it has halved in last 30 years. Second is if we look at income, at what our economy grows, say 6%, what rate our per capita income grows, then people save something, at what rate people increase their expenditure, and then in response to income, what is the increase in demand? Economists call it income elasticity of demand. If we factor in that get then another 1% to 1.25% get added into it. Some people says 1.5%. So total comes to 2.25%. So this is the rate at which currently India's demand for food is rising. And in the next 10-15 years, it may decelerate. It is not likely to increase at more than this. This has created a big imbalance between the supply, growth rate of supply, growth rate demand. That demand is rising at the rate of third of what is the growth rate in production. So what you do with rest of the one third, its implication is very simple, that India will every year will have, out of total growth that happen in a year, 1/3 will be surplus. Either you keep building your stocks like we built in case of sugar, like we have built in case of rice and wheat, or you look for overseas market. the best way is to look at overseas market. That's why this emphasis on export, that next 5 year India want to double its export, not a slogan. It has come out of compulsion. We want to make compulsion into opportunity. So this is the second reason, that unless we find export avenue for 1/3 of increase in production, not total production, 1/3 of increase in production that happen in the coming years, then if that supply remain within the country, it will suppress the prices. Prices will go down further, which is interest of the producers. But internationally, we are getting outpriced. We are losing our competitiveness. Some of you may be knowing that we are giving 10 rupee per kg subsidy on sugar. Still, we are not able to compete in export market to sell our sugar. Hello. That on one hand, we have this need and compulsion to sell in overseas market. On the other hand, we are not very competitive. Now, question is why we are not competitive. Two aspects. One is that cost of logistics. If you look at the cost of transport, cost of storage, all those things, I'm also a member of 15th Transition. We gave study to expert group. It is available on our site. They calculated that in India, the cost of logistics is 15% of the final price. In China, it is 2.5%. Whereas this logistic cost can be easily brought down to lower level. Then we also know what kind of costs are there in the market. And also, because in many cases, the way our farmers do agriculture, the efficiency of input use, butter, fertilizer, you people know than 30%, 40%, and much of the modernization, precision farming, all those things, they are not coming to farming. That is another way that we can reduce average cost of production. So if we want to export competitive, we have to reduce our average cost of production. We have to reduce our cost of logistics, taking produce from say North India to port city. Right now, the cost of taking produce from North India to port is 3 times by the cost of bringing produce from Thailand to the coastal area. I have all those estimates. So these two factors, this is the second big kind of compulsion. The third reason, that if we look at the consumer demand, it is shifting. So many seminars in IRI had that per capita demand for cereal is falling. If in future we are estimating that aggregate demand will increase by 2.25%, you will see that cereal demand will not increase even by more than 1%. In some cases, it will increase by 3% or so. So this is a reason that people's preference, their consumption basket is changing. This necessitates that we reorient our production to match what are the changes in the consumption pattern. That is possible only and only if demand signal are carried to the production, demand signal are carried to the production, to the sowing acreage and input use, etc. The third reason is, if we look at processing, some of you might have read about economic development process of transition. Whenever any economy get advanced in agriculture and move toward industrialization, the growth rate of food agro processing must be higher than what is the growth rate in raw food production. If that doesn't happen, then you face some problem. In case of India, only last 3-4 years, it may be incidence, not that this bit is doing better. That is for you people. The food processing growth picked up. Before that, for some year, it was even negative. Our processor preferred to import concentrate of tomato and make tomato puree and tomato ketchup. They import concentrate from China, from other places, and they do it for juices also. So it is very important that our food processing must grow at a faster rate than what is the growth rate in food production. That is also important for rural employment. It is also for moving some people out of agriculture to that, because food processing industry is more labor intensive compared to many other industries in our country. And we also know that over time, farmers have been losing confidence in market. Now they are agitating that want these markets. It's okay, I will come to that point. But so many times they have been protesting that they are not getting right price for cane. Even yesterday I got a note for cabinet. In the markets, there were cartels, Sonipat market, so many study in Delhi School of Economics. Farmers are forming cartel when they go for buying of basmati rice. So farmers just felt that they are not getting fair treatment in the market. They are not getting remunerative price in the market. It is because of failure of competition in the market, farmers have been turning to government. Please buy our produce at MSP. We want government to intervene into agriculture markets. So this is why they have been saying. So as a result, government has to go for PM Kisan Samman Nidhi, though it is a small amount, loan waiver, those kind of things. There could be populist also to it. There is this economic compulsion also to this. Then another is, if we look at that, if we are paying MSP through the system of procurement, what does it cost to the government? 2 years back, I was developing alternate idea for giving MSP to the farmer. I was working on, some of you might have heard, deficiency price payment idea, which government of Madhya Pradesh tried on that basis. During that time, I calculated that if government is paying 1500 rupee MSP to the farmer, I was reference here 1415, government has to incur a cost of 500 rupee to pay 1500 rupee to the farmers. So you imagine that this kind of inefficiency, that to pay 1500 rupee, you have to pay cost of 500. If we go for price deficiency, maybe 500 will be more beneficial for the farmer than buying produce from him. I'm not building a case against MSP. I will tell you that why I'm giving these, but the way our public system built, the way FCI works.
सर एक अनुरोध था, अगर इस मुद्दे को थोड़ा अगर हिंदी में भी बता सके, कुछ और किसान जुड़े हुए जिनको थोड़ा हो सकती है समझने में जो है, तो अगर परेशानी हो तो आप।
नहीं, मुझे तो कोई परेशानी नहीं है, आपके वैज्ञानिक लोगों को
हमारे साथ हैं करीब 895 लोग जुड़े हुए इसमें, 895 people. Of course there is diversity, there are people from whole country actually. बट किसान जो जुड़े हुए हैं, बीच में अगर कहीं जो इम्पोर्टेंट मुद्दा उनसे संबंधित सीधे आता है, तो थोड़ा सा हिंदी में बता दें सब तो अच्छा रहेगा।
जी जी जी। और मैं थोड़ा सा अपना एक स्टडी का अध्ययन आपसे शेयर करना चाहूंगा, जो कि मैंने काफी हाई लेवल पे भी किया है। आज हम इस स्थिति में पहुंच गए हैं, जिस चीज को ज्यादा गवर्नमेंट सपोर्ट कर रही है, उस चीज की ग्रोथ सबसे कम है। आज फिशरी सेक्टर को सरकार की कोई सपोर्ट नहीं है, थोड़ी बहुत इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर के अलावा, ना कोई वहां सब्सिडी है, ना आउट प्राइस सपोर्ट है। साथियों, फिशरी की ग्रोथ 7% हो रही है। फिशरी के बाद आप दूध के सेक्टर में आ जाइए, डेयरी, लाइव स्टॉक, मीट, एग, टोटल लीजिए या अलग अलग कंपोनेंट पे, उस पे भी सरकार का एक इंस्टीट्यूशनल सपोर्ट जरूर था, थोड़ा बहुत कोऑपरेटिव सिस्टम को खड़ा किया, लेकिन कोई एमएसपी नहीं है, कोई फीड पे सब्सिडी नहीं है, कोई किसी भी चीज पे नहीं है। उसका ग्रोथ रेट नंबर 2 पे आता है, 5% है। तीसरे पे हमारी हॉर्टिकल्चर क्रॉप्स हैं, जिन पे ठीक है, क्योंकि फर्टिलाइजर रेट पे बिकता है तो सब्जी और फल वाला भी उसी को खरीदता है। थोड़ी सी सपोर्ट है इन टर्म्स ऑफ इनपुट पे जो सब्सिडी है, उसका ग्रोथ रेट 3% से ऊपर है पिछले आप 8-10 साल का देखें। यदि हम हमारे जो सीरियल हैं उन पे आ जाएं, जिन पे हम एमएसपी भी देते हैं, फ्री बिजली भी है, कई जगह सब्सिडी भी है, चीजें हैं, उन पे जो ग्रोथ रेट है वो 1.5% केवल हमारा आ रहा है। तो मैं ये एग्जांपल इसलिए दे रहा हूं कि ग्रोथ क्यों हो रही है, क्योंकि अच्छी इनकम है फार्मर को वहां से। मैं पर डॉक्टर सिराज हुसैन और श्वेता सैनी का फाइनेंशियल एक्सप्रेस में। तो उन्होंने ये आर्टिकल छापा कि बिहार में 1 एकड़ से जितना प्रोडक्शन से इनकम होती है, पंजाब में 1 एकड़ से उससे 25% कम इनकम होती है। ये परसों के फाइनेंशियल एक्सप्रेस में है। उन्होंने पूरे एक जो नेशन वाइड सर्वे है उसका डेटा लिया और उन्होंने ये कंक्लूजन निकाला कि चाहे वहां प्रोक्योरमेंट नहीं है, चाहे वहां एमएस बिहार में नहीं है, लेकिन वहां 35% एरिया फ्रूट और वेजिटेबल के अंडर है, जिनकी प्रोडक्टिविटी इन वैल्यू टर्म्स कहीं ज्यादा है सेल से। तो इस वजह से उन्होंने बताया कि प्रति हेक्टेयर इनकम, प्रति एक इनकम सबसे ज्यादा केरला में है, जहां एपीएमसी एक्ट है ही नहीं। नंबर 2 पे बिहार आता है, जहां ये इतनी ज्यादा डाइवर्सिफिकेशन हो रखी, और पंजाब और हरियाणा ये थोड़ा काफी जो है नीचे आ रहे हैं। तो ये जो स्टेट अपनी डिमांड के हिसाब से नहीं पैदा करती, जो देश में डिमांड है, जहां अच्छी होती हैं, उसके कारण हो सकते हैं कि प्राइस रिस्क है बहुत बड़ा, जिस पर मैं आऊंगा। तो ये एक और कारण है। और आपने ये भी सुना कि हमारे यहाँ जो सप्लाई चेन्स हैं उसमें पिछले बहुत वर्षों में कोई अंतर नहीं आया। किसान लोग भी यहाँ बैठे हैं, मंडियों में केवल इतना अंतर आया है कि 40 साल पहले किसान बैलगाड़ी में सामान लाता था, अब मोस्टली ट्रैक्टर पे आता है। उसके अलावा मैंने कोई सिस्टम में एफिशिएंसी या कोई किसी किस्म का उसमें नंबर ऑफ ट्रांजैक्शन कम किया हो, ऑक्शन से जो प्रोड्यूस हो रहा है उसका कहीं टाइम किया हो, कहीं इलेक्ट्रॉनिक, कहीं भी आपको वो चीज नजर नहीं आता। और हम अभी मैं इस पे भी आऊंगा, हर तीसरे साल अनियन क्राइसिस हमारे यहाँ होता है। तो उसके पीछे चीज है जिस वजह से हर तीसरे वर्ष में हमारे यहाँ एक अनियन क्राइसिस जो है देश में आ जाता है। और फिर एक जो है कि जो हमारी एमएसपी है, हम ये सब जानते हैं कि भाई एक पुराना सर्वे था जिसने कहा कि केवल 6-7% किसानों को मिलती है। वो थोड़ा पुराना सर्वे है, आज की डेट में उसमें एक एक्सपेंशन हुआ है पीएम आशा में, कुछ ऑयल सीड, कुछ पल्सेस भी एमएसपी पे खरीदे जा रहे हैं। तो आज की डेट बड़ी है, 9%, 10% किसान है जिनको वो एमएसपी मिलती है। तो ये जो नए कानून बनाए, इनके पीछे जो मेन कंडीशन थी, 90% वो किसान जहां एमएसपी अनाउंस होने के बाद भी कभी एमएसपी नहीं मिलती, हम उनको एक बेहतर प्राइस कैसे सुनिश्चित करें। और 10% किसान जिनको एमएसपी का लाभ मिल रहा है, उनको हम जब तक लाभदायक अल्टरनेटिव नहीं मिल जाता, उनके यहाँ हम ये जो एमएसपी है उसको इंटैक्ट कैसे रखें। ये 2 मेजर कंसिडरेशन, ये रिफॉर्म बनाए, कंसल्टेशन हुआ, मैंने एक्सपर्ट्स को भी काफियों को बुलाया, आप उनसे पूछ सकते हो कि क्या ये चीजें डिस्कस हुई थी कि नहीं, कि एमएसपी को इंटैक्ट रखना है। हम नहीं चाहते कि हमारे स्टेपल फूड में कोई किसी किस्म का डिसरप्शन आ जाए, उसको इंटैक्ट रखना है। और जो 90% लोग जिनको नहीं मिल रहा एमएसपी का लाभ या रिम्यूनरेटिव प्राइस नहीं मिल रही, उनको किस सिस्टम से हम इसको दे सकें। अब कुछ लोग कहेंगे कि आप एमएसपी को कानून क्यों नहीं बना देते, सभी को क्यों नहीं मिलता। आप महाराष्ट्र की स्टोरी पढ़िए, 3 साल पहले महाराष्ट्र ने कहा कि एमएसपी आपको सोयाबीन में इतनी देनी ही पड़ेगी, उन्होंने कानून बना दिया। कुछ दिनों के बाद, क्योंकि मार्केट उसको सपोर्ट नहीं करती, किसी ने भी सोयाबीन को खरीदना बंद कर दिया। फाइनली गवर्नमेंट को व्यापारियों के साथ बातचीत करनी पड़ी और बायोमीट ने ये निकाला कि अब हम ये तो कह चुके हैं, अब आप इसको ये लिखो कि ये फेयर एवरेज क्वालिटी से नीचे है, इसलिए आप इसको एमएसपी से नीचे खरीद रहे हैं, हम इसको अनलॉफुल नहीं माने। तो मैं ये कह रहा था कि डिमांड और सप्लाई को इग्नोर करके कानून के तौर पर किसी चीज की एमएसपी बहुत देर तक नहीं लगा सकते। केवल राइस और वीट में हमें एक ये एडवांटेज है कि 6 करोड़ टन हमने पीडीएस में देना होता है। ठीक है, हम थोड़ा ज्यादा खरीदते हैं, पहले 7 करोड़ टन खरीदते थे, अब लगभग 8 करोड़ टन के पास पहुंच गए, तो केवल थोड़ा सा ही खरीदते हैं। बाकी जो खरीदते हैं उसकी एक मार्केट है, उसके हमारे पास उपभोक्ता है। लेकिन सभी चीजों को सरकारें खरीद करने लगे और जो मैंने एग्जाम्पल दी 1500 रुपया एमएसपी देने के लिए 500 रुपया सरकार को खर्चा पड़ता है, जब आप इसकी टोटल पे कैलकुलेशन करोगे तो आप देखोगे कि सरकार 5-4 साल में ही बैंकक्रप्ट हो जाएगी। और चाइना जो हमारे से 8-9 गुना इकोनॉमिकली ज्यादा पावरफुल है, उसने भी हमारी तरह पहले वो प्रोक्योरमेंट से करते थे एमएसपी मेज में, कॉटन में। जब उन्होंने एक किया 10-11 में प्राइसेस बढ़ी थी तो प्रोक्योरमेंट वगैरह प्राइस रेज किया, उनका इतना बुरा हाल हो गया कि उनको वर्ष 13 में इस चीज को छोड़ना पड़ा कि हम प्रोक्योरमेंट से एमएसपी करेंगे, क्योंकि जो चीज वो खरीदते थे उस मार्केट नहीं है। राइस मीट की मार्केट है, गन्ने को भी किसी तरह से हैंडल किया जा रहा है, लेकिन सभी चीज को खरीदना और उसकी मार्केट बनाना, तो ये एक इशू है कि उसको कानून तौर पे उसको एमएसपी बनाने में सरकार क्या डिफिकल्टी आती है। तो मैंने 12 पॉइंट आपके साथ किए कि क्या रीजंस हैं बिकॉज ऑफ विच गवर्नमेंट हैज टू थिंक ऑफ पॉलिसी इन एग्रीकल्चर. You know, government always look at expert in the beginning, that what are people, what are scholarly people saying, but experience of other country, if we want to change lot of any sector. You look at any study from 95 up to 2000 about the reform in agriculture, all study one voice have been saying we need to reform Agriculture Produce Market Act. We need to bring out contract farming which protect interest of farmers. There are articles that if you don't have proper protection, farmer के interest का proper आपने protection नहीं किया तो contract farming exploit कर सकता है, ये article है। लेकिन ये सब ने उसको कहा कि contract farming को लाइए, farmer को proper कानून में उसको एक protection देकर, इसी तरह एसेंशियल कमोडिटी एक्ट को चेंज करिए। तो आप कोई भी देख लीजिए, डॉक्टर अलका सिंह है और है, किसी ने कोई आर्टिकल 1995 से लेकर जब तक ये एविडेंस आया तब तक ये देखा हो जिसने ये कहा हो कि हमें एपीएमसी को रिफॉर्म नहीं करना चाहिए, हमें एसेंशियल कमोडिटी एक्ट नहीं लाना चाहिए, या हमें ये कोई चीज नहीं करनी चाहिए। लेकिन जिस दिन ये एविडेंस आगे 5 भी कुछ नहीं बताया कि आपको क्या करना चाहिए, कभी रिफॉर्म के अगेंस्ट एक लाइन नहीं लिखी जो अभी इस तरह की लाइन लिख रही हैं। तो ऐसे लोगों की इंग्लिश मेरे से बहुत अच्छी होती है, तो आपको अपना तरीके से उसको समझना चाहिए कि जो कोई बात कह रहा है कोई उसका प्रूफ दे रहा है हमें। यदि कोई ये कह रहा है कि आप ये एग्रीकल्चर कारपोरेट को देना चाहते हो, कारपोरेट हमें ऐसा कर देगा। मैं परसों ही टाइम्स नाउ पे प्रोफेसर अरुण कुमार बड़े प्रसिद्ध है वहां के, उनके साथ था। मैंने उन्हें कहा इसमें सैकड़ों कॉन्ट्रैक्ट फार्मिंग चल रहे हैं, मैं आपको एड्रेस दे देता हूं, मुझे आप एक एविडेंस ला दीजिए कि कॉन्ट्रैक्ट फार्मिंग ने फार्मर के अगेंस्ट काम किया हो, किसी कारपोरेट ने फार्मर की 1 इंच लैंड पे भी कब्जा किया हो। मुझे आप एविडेंस ला दीजिए, मैं नीति योग में इसका विरोध करना चाहूंगा। सो ये इस तरह का जो लिटरेचर आइडियोलॉजी के बेस पे है, सुंदर सुंदर आर्गुमेंट, उससे हमें थोड़ा सचेत रहना चाहिए। अब मैं आता हूं कि एक्सपर्ट्स के अलावा सरकार 5 ईयर प्लान बनाने से पहले वर्किंग ग्रुप और स्टीयरिंग कमेटी बनाती थी। पिछले
थोड़ा सा डाइवर्सिटी हो रही है हमारे जो पार्टिसिपेंट्स हैं, और कमेंट्स बॉक्स में देख रहा हूँ कि जब आप हिंदी में बोलना शुरू किए तो बहुत सारे लोग लिखना शुरू किए, कृपया अंग्रेजी में भी बोलिए, क्योंकि हम लोग नहीं समझ पा रहे हैं। बड़ी ऐसे में
नहीं तो
थोड़ा सा आप सर अंग्रेजी में बोलिए, जो प्रश्न आएंगे जो हिंदी भाषी क्षेत्र से उसको हम देख लेंगे। आप
I will suggest to you, we should keep in 2 different categories.
Right.
Never say no to you. I pay my debt to IRI by speaking at such forum. So should organize another webinar especially for farmer. There I will speak in Hindi or Punjabi or Urdu. These are the 3 Indian languages in which I can. Okay.
Right, sir.
So then there are so many working group, 10th plan, 11th plan, 5th, Dr. Chopra was member, Abhijeet Sen was member. All those, they, Professor S.S. Acharya, who has worked his whole life in marketing, even he also signed his recommendation of working group that if states are not getting persuaded, center should bring the bill in the parliament to bring it into current list. This was the background. So what I want to say is that this idea did not come suddenly. From 2002 onwards, all successive government, they have tried to push these reforms. But agriculture marketing and agriculture action with state subjects, the only role states could play was to persuade states to undertake these reforms. The first model APMC Act was brought during 2003 when there was, sorry, I said it other way around, when there was UPA government. Then in 2012, Sharad Pawar ji constituted a committee of agriculture minister and marketing minister of all states. Again, their unanimous recommendation was quickly the state should be somehow asked to change their APLM Act. And in 2013, Congress government persuaded many states to take fruit and vegetable out of APMC, which technical language is said, de-notify fruit and vegetable. So 20 states brought a new law to change APMC Act and created a provision that fruit and vegetable can be taken either in APMC mandi or outside APMC mandi. And if they are sold outside APMC mandi, there will be no tax, there will be no fees, there will be no commission, nothing like that. What this government has done in Trading Act is simply expanded the list from fruit and vegetable to all the crops which are notified, nothing else. This simple change that Congress and UPA government freed fruit and vegetable from APMC, this government freed all the crops. This is the simple difference which is done. Then when this government again came into power, NDA 2, they deputed a very knowledgeable person in agriculture. He was a additional secretary, Ashok. Two model law. One was agriculture produce and livestock marketing law, model law. Second was related to contract farming. Meetings with agriculture minister of state were held in Bagyan Bhavan. I was also present there. No state said no to it. They all said we will do it. Then after that, persuasion, and the present status is that states did these reform in piecemeal way. Like there is one provision earlier that you can trade in the market only if you have a shop in the market. That provision was changed. Second was that you can trade only in that market where you have license. So if you belong to Uttar Pradesh, you have a license for Lucknow, you can't trade in Varanasi. That is also something which was changed. Like this, there were 9 provisions under Model APMC Act. Out of those, some were adopted, and one of those was to create provision for contract farming. That is also adopted by 20 states, but there is license fee for contract farming. There are different types of for contract farming, and Punjab was the first state to bring its own. This is the background which is important to know. But if we look at these reforms, the ultimate analysis shows that these reforms were partial, these reforms were patchy, they were ununiform. Like I told you about contract farming, that you need a license. I have those act, license Raj in agriculture, why not to free? So just to bring these uniformity, etc., you just find that this was just so now I just come to that how it happened during COVID-19. There are so many things that go into this ordinance. Because these are talked, it is important to share with you. You know, in our country, it has become fashionable to talk. Challenge must be converted into opportunity. It is a great challenge. Let us talk how we convert it into opportunity. So when we talk about it, in the past also challenges came. We never converted them into opportunity. 71 was a challenge, 65 war was a challenge, 91 reform was a challenge for so many other people. WTO was a challenge. But in our who, with great request, a member of WTO in 99, it just did not become defensive. It used the same WTO rule to create market in each and every country. But we kept looking at WTO. Our farmer is 1 acre, US farmer is 10,000 acre. How my farmer can compete with it? But experience tells us that our farmer have doubled their share in export after WTO. If you look between 95 and 2018, our export share has doubled, though still very low, but it has doubled, which means our exports have grown much faster than export of agriculture from USA and edge of the world. So just to say our farmer is small, how he can compete with 10,000 acres? These are all hyperculture, as I said to you. From 2000 onward, people have been writing what need to be done in agriculture. What need to be done was readily available for agriculture. So idea was given that please, these are the reforms. Then next question came, if there is discussion on these reforms from 2002 onward, first APMC Act, Model Act came in 2003, why states are not doing it? Then talk came, give incentive to state. Again, Secretary Agriculture said, we gave incentive, it is not working. So how to do it? Then the overall thinking in the government started, can we do something that all states adopt these acts, and can we come out with something comprehensive rather than doing it in the, so what did not happen in 18 years, it has done now. Now I come to implication in which all of you will be more interested. That what will happen to APMC, what will happen to MSP, what will happen to commission agent, what will happen to others. So let us just look at it. Positive implication and perception about negative kind of impact. So I already said that, put in simple word, the new trade and these are the name. The first act I am now talking, the Farmer Produce Trade and Commerce Promotion and Facilitation Bill 2020. Simply put, has expanded the freedom which was given to fruit and vegetable in 2013 by large number of states to other commodity which are notified by the states. So many people have talked, now it is common knowledge that the APMC Act is such, which is there in 27 states except Bihar and Kerala, and some minor small state, Manipur or something like that. It says that you can sell your produce of notified crop only and only in the market yard of APMC. That may be sub yard, that may be principal yard, or that may be any other market which is designated by APMC that here you can sell your produce. Outside that, if you are doing, it is a illegal activity. Another matter that except Punjab and Haryana, rest of India, 60-70% of the produce sells outside APMC. APMC doesn't have an infrastructure for it. And you have to bribe APMC official that because they will say you have saved so much money, 3% tax and all those things. So you give them some bribe, please let me sell it outside market. You take 1%, I keep 1%. That kind of thing is happening. That transactions outside Mandi are happening right now. More produce sells outside Mandi than within the Mandi, which is illegal. But it is not happening in a transparent manner. And you know, when anything is not happening in a transparent manner, who is the loser? The loser is always the seller. So that was the rule. Under the new rule, farmer has been given the kind of freedom which even I could not absorb for a couple of days. When newspaper were asking me to comment on this ordinance, I told them, let me absorb it. So much freedom has been given. Darpan hi na samaye wali baat ho gayi. Even I am not able to absorb and understand that how this freedom will work. So under this new law, complete freedom is given. Farmer can sell anywhere, everywhere. If they can join together as a farmer producer organization, cooperative, if they feel potato will sell better in some states, in Gujarat, in Maharashtra, or anywhere, or Rajasthan compared to Amritsar, they can do it. So this is one, that freedom of choice to sell, and we all know what is meaning of freedom of choice. Then what will be benefit of smallholder? This is again and again. In fact, this was an important consideration that in future, in coming couple of years, our farm size is not going to increase, it is going to get further smaller. So if we want our farmer to diversify, produce value crops, then nature of vegetable is such that they do not grow like wheat, that in one day you can harvest all. It is possible if farmer has only, say, 500 square meter, a marginal farmer under vegetable. Today he has 30 kg, tomorrow he has 40 kg, day after he has 50 kg. Do you think it is economical for him to carry that 30 kg to market, 40 kg to market? So as a result, he decided not to diversify because he feels there is a problem in marketing. If we provide him collection center like we have in dairy, that even if somebody want to sell 500 ml of milk, he or she can go to dairy and sell 500 ml milk. So these acts will create ecosystem like dairy, that there will be collection center, there will be wire in the doorstep. So just like dairy, a smallholder in future, even if there is kg vegetable harvest, he will have some market to sell his produce. Another is that farmer have been sometime asking me question, and I always feel embarrassed to answer this question. They used to say, sir, car wala fixed price of car, motorcycle wala fixed price of motorcycle, dukan wala retailer he put dal at this much kg. Why farmer is not able to dictate price? Why he is a price taker? Under the new act, if a farmer so wish, he can be price dictator. He can bargain for the price. My wheat, my potato is of better quality. I don't want to send it as a dada kind of things. This should be this value. Please tell me what price you will give. This is my price at which I will offer. So you will see to it. These things look fiction right now, but you will see to it. Things will move in this direction, that farmer as a producer group can become price dictator rather than price taker, which has been the historical experience. Diversification is going to happen, lower cost of logistics. On average, right now, there are 6 to 7 transactions between a producer and a consumer. Thoda. Just go into the detail, you will find. So if the value chain is compressed, in many cases, farmer will be able to sell his produce directly. That is what people, some startup are doing in case of Bangalore, producing vegetable, bringing it to cooperative group housing society, doing it. I found it in case of Maharashtra also, that how Sahyadri Cooperative Society, they are bringing vegetable fruits in truck and sending one to Sachivalaya, another to other place, earning lot of profit. So you must find that the new ecosystem will be like this. It will also boost processing sector, and biggest thing that it will improve our competitiveness in export, which is very much needed. Now coming to impact APMC. This is sensitive matter, but I will not hesitate. From academic background, and I am a technical member of NITI Aayog. So friends, let me tell you what kind of likely impact will be there on APMC. Not uniform across states, not uniform across countries. It will depend on present structure of NITI Aayog and APMC and present practices in APMC. First, I take example of Madhya Pradesh. For the knowledge of some of you who do not know this, Madhya Pradesh removed commission agents between 1985 and 90, and the system has not collapsed, it is working. So first, this myth that if commission agents are not there, the system will collapse is a myth. Madhya Pradesh is just example that there are no commission agents, things have been happening there. For notified crop, for denotified things, they don't bother anything happen. Those crops which are notified by APMC in Madhya Pradesh, there are no commission agent for that. Even when FCI or state government buy from the farmer, payment is directly made to the farmer without any check given to any commission agent or any commission paid to the commission wala. The total charges in Madhya Pradesh, including mandi fees, including I think some other, is 1.7%. 1.7%. I feel this model faces no threat, because if you are charging 1.7%, you are providing infrastructure, common platform you are providing auction, and you are providing a place where a couple of traders can come and go for auctioning. So it is so small, and CM himself interacted with me, spoke to that mandi people. They told me that after the state notified these ordinances in the state, market arrival in APMC mandi in Madhya Pradesh has increased, and they are now working how to reduce even this 1.7%. They have a very ambitious target, 0.5%. I told them, don't reduce so much. Even if you keep at 1%, 1.25, your mandi will be running. There will be no threat. Trader would love to come to you. Even if you are charged from farmer 1%, he will keep coming to you. There's no threat. So this is one model where charges are commensurate with the service you are providing, where charges are not bent that because I have a license of a commission agent, therefore you have to pay me 2.5%. 50 rupee per bag of beet you have to pay me because license. Just because of license, one name is sitting and all that is going to that person. So one model where rates are reasonable, like Madhya Pradesh. In many states, rates are reasonable, no threat to APMC. APMC will keep working along with others, as we just find that MTNL, BSL are working along with Jio and Bharti Airtel, even though their rates are cheaper, but still you find BSNL and MTNL, they are still working somewhat. Second is the other extreme I take, their rate are highest, like state of Punjab, where it is 8.5%. Again, in that state, as long as procurement is happening by the official agencies, which is likely to happen, which is not going to stop, I think there is no threat to these APMC mandi in near future, because their 70-80% produced in the state is beet and paddy. Beet and paddy will come to market, it is purchased by FCI or the state agency, in turn it is taken to the central pool. So you will find that 80% produce, 88% charges have to be paid. It will continue to be there. So no danger to that. But people will move to outside mandis. Why they will pay 8.5%? They will move outside the mandis. So that is the kind of situation in Punjab. As long as government procurement of beet and rice is by government agency, and beet and rice are the dominant crop of the state, the existing system, you will find it will continue. Arthia will continue to earn money, so it will just remain intact. Maybe little bit more produce cane is not bought by government, little bit mustard, moong, and those kind of things, but that will not affect the overall business. So this will continue there also for some time. Then there are other places, and we are tax rate for the kind of service which mandi give to you, which you are willing to pay. You will not set up your own corporate of things. You will not send your own person. That also involve cost. The rate which they give to me, that if APMC charges up to 2%, we are comfortable. But if it goes beyond that 2%, then we will prefer to set up our own system or work out with the local people. Then we will not buy from the mandi, we will buy from other places. So you will just find if APMC mandis, and you will see to it that state government, because worried about farmers, they will not let APMC get closed. They will just bring down these RD, rural development charge, cess, welfare charge, cess, etc. They will bring down to 2% or that, and with that you will find that private sector will also be comfortable to go there and buy the produce. Whatever is going there right now, around 40-50%, rest 60%, I told you, already selling outside the market, that will remain outside the market. So some new equilibrium will be worked out where all transaction will be legal, whether they happen within market or they happen outside the market. Then I come to the MSP. What will happen to from MSP? Nowhere. You look at history of this government last 6 years. They were the ones who revised the formula of MSP, which led to sudden increase in MSP by more than 10% for all the crop, except probably one crop. So it is easy to talk that we want C2 plus 50. Okay, that is second step, but something is done. A2 plus FL multiplied by 1.5, that new formula, because of it, when this formula was adopted 3 years back, you find how MSP increased suddenly. Then just find that in last 5 years, how procurement and MSP have been expanded. Odisha, which was never contributing to central pool, you know what is its contribution to central pool last year? It is 5 million ton. 5 million ton. You will see in a few years, I will not be surprised if it crosses Punjab. You see? So MSP and procurement, they have expanded. They have expanded geographically. They have expanded in terms of procurement of rice and wheat. Now it is close to 18 ton. They have expanded to other crop. That small quantity of pulses, oil seed is also purchased under MSP. So I don't know from where this issue of that MSP will be stopped has come. Even this government came with PM Asha that if state want, they can give MSP for any of the 22 notified crop, and whatever the loss happen, up to it is up to 40% of the MSP. The state center said we will bear it. And we are saying that this government is going to stop MSP. Never like that. This is just a hypothetical kind of things. There is nothing like that. Some people say Santa Kumar committee report. I told them, you calculated how many Santa Kumar type of committee report have been submitted in last 5 years. Anything you found from this that they are thinking of this kind of move? Shanta Kumar committee says that you give cash transfer to the consumers, but there is no such move. The government is realizing that physical distribution works better for the poor than giving cash, except for some. So again, another kind of fallacy. The third kind of fallacy which is being spread is that Bihar repealed its APMC Act in 2006. सिंह साहब, मैं कहीं बहुत डिटेल में तो नहीं जा रहा, मुझे बता दीजिए, कहो तो मैं संक्षेप में।
सर बिल्कुल सही है सर, ठीक है सर।
हाँ, अब बिहार का केस आइए। बिहार scrapped APMC Act in 2006. I was against it and I am against it even today. Publicly I am against. We want competition. We want APMC to coexist with others. Anyway, Bihar finished APMC, so this comparison with India is not valid, but still it is important to share with you what was happening in Bihar before 2006 and what is happening in Bihar after 2006. People are saying this year Bihar farmers are getting 10% lower price than MSP. And they abolished this APMC Act. That's why it is like this. This morning, I asked my research associate to give me data on what was the farm harvest price in Bihar 10 years before 2006 and up to now. He gave me data from 99 up to 2017. The facts are, I share that data with anyone. It is taken from public sources. Bihar, up to 2006, 8-9 years, Bihar farmer got 30% lower price than what was MSP of paddy. Paddy is the only crop. Wheat is not important for Bihar. After 2006, Bihar farmer continue to get lower price than MSP, but only 20% less. So in terms of gap, that 10% is reduced. I don't want to draw any inference, but those who are giving example of Bihar, I counted them couple of times that this is the situation. Secondly, I also disputed them. Different states work differently. Different development program work different. Revolution happened in Punjab in 1970. In Bihar, it is happening 50 years after that. So just comparison with Bihar, this MSP is not the right thing. And even with scrapping of that act, Bihar farmer better price than what they were getting when this act was there, because it was not working well. And I also want to share that last year Bihar had a record procurement of 1 million ton rice to the central pool. So my friends, existence of MFPMC is not required for MSP, and MSP doesn't require that there is APMC. So many examples. There are wonderful APMC in Punjab, but maize sells always less than MSP. Mustard sell less than MSP. Moong in some villages in Jagrao and other places I have seen sell less than MSP. So if APMC is granting MSP, why these crops are selling below MSP? MSP is a administrative decision of the government that we want to procure certain crops which are important for our food security or which are perceived to be the crop of national importance like cotton. So government is buying these. As long as government decides we will buy, the MSP will exist. It has nothing to do with APM. We also know in UP there was APMC, but now 2-3 years Bihar, UP also procurement has increased, but thousands of farmers from Western UP, they try to go to Haryana to take their produce to get MSP. APMC is giving you MSP, then why those farmers in UP are not getting MSP? So all these linkages which we are being tapped off, they are not born by the fact, and we should not fall into the trap of hypothetical article. We should just look at the facts. Now on to the second act. What is this contract farming? As I mentioned to you, 20 states have already created a provision for contract farming, but the act is not uniform across states. Those who want to come into contract farming, they just feel that they are required to meet these licensing requirement. It requires a lot of things, and it is everywhere. I don't know this year, but 3-4 years back, I visited some farmer in Patiala growing barley under contract farming, and I know this Lays and potato chips which we eat, most of it is produced under contract farming. And you know that most of the eggs are produced under contract farming. Smaller are producing layer and broiler and eggs. So this is how it is. Not that Venkateshwar or hatchery producing all the eggs. They have contract with. And I would like to share one example with you where contract farming has been working so well. Full history, I don't know, but I just saw in the literature. Nestle is buying milk in Punjab's Moga districts. Earlier, the name was Food Specialty Limited. I entered that place as a student and we talked to farmers. They told us they were so happy the procurement of milk by Nestle that Nestle has developed that area. I got a FAO study which was up to period 2005-6, which said 1 lakh farmer daily sell 12 lakh liter of milk to Nestle, and generally it is under contract. Yesterday I made phone call to some person. He told me that the number is much larger. Daily collection is 20 lakh. Farmers are more happy than they. So just to say that big contractor will come, hypothetically this will come. So even a multinational who has been working in Punjab where people are protesting against contract farming, and there are other pockets of contract farming. You tell me one example. MP and UP, there are ITC Chopal, ITC Chopal. It may not have benefited some farmer, but tell me what is the harm it has done to other farmer if there is any. Venkateshwar example I have given. So many dozens of other contract farming are going, but they are required to make license. In many cases, interest of farmer is not properly protected. So under the new law, you please read it. Rules are being made. If some good suggestion come, then be incorporated. This law is so much in favor of farmers. There is a grievance SDM of the concerned state. They can go to him, and if any contractor reneges on the contract, he will be fined 50% and farmer will be paid 1.5 times the amount of contract. But if for some reason farmer say reneges into the contract, for what reason? Farmer will not pay any fine. He will only pay whatever money he or she has taken from the contract person for services and other kind of things. So also provision created for services. There was a reason why this provision has been created for the service agreement. So this agreement address the limitations of earlier contract farming acts, make it more farmer friendly, widen the scope to cover the services also. Like I once gave example in our NASC, when the death of 10 laborer in Maharashtra while they were spraying on some crops, I said pesticide firm should be told to sell pest control rather than selling pesticides. So pest control is a service that a farmer has contract. If there is a pest on my control, gentlemen, it will be your duty to control. I will pay you this much for this. So you look at philosophy behind all these, that how they have been made to take care of farmers' interest. And another big reason why many farmers commit suicide, because they thought tomato has given very good price this year. Let me also put my entire area under tomato and deal with my poverty. Some money will come, I will make all those things. But poor fellow next year find price crashes and he goes into debt. It is a price assurance. It will be a sort of MSP given by government to private to farmer. Now you will find the same MSP will be given under this contract by private player to the farmer. You take risk of growing tomato. I will be there. I have to buy it. So this has been put under the new act. There are many other examples that how it can be helpful. Biggest help will come for the processing, that they have a crop of desired variety, desired maturity, rather than going to 10 mandi, buying 20 quintal here, that, this, that. So they will get rid of that. That is about this act. Third is modification in Essential Commodity Act 1955. Reason for creating this Essential Commodity Act. What happened? You know that agriculture production is subject to vagaries of nature. Whatever we have irrigation, etc., still production is going to fluctuate. The main reason for fluctuation prices are real condition, which is the fluctuation in supply. Sometimes fluctuation in demand also, but demand is largely stable except for export. You just find demand rise on a smooth trend. But supply fluctuation, if say potato price come down by 4%, there is a possibility tomato price increase by 5 times of that, 20%. That is based on price elasticity of potato. So Essential Commodity Act, which was meant to stabilize prices, moderate prices, because of that, because state and center, they could say, I will not let you store more than 500 bags, or more than 5,000 bags, or even more than 50 bags, or more than 5 bags. Because of that, modern investment in warehouses, in logistics are not coming. So when people are not stocking required quantity at the time of harvest, private people, how they will have that for supply in the lean period? We have small traders, small quantity stored by them. They also play with them to escape Essential Commodity Act, because they are in close contact with the farmer. They will produce at the farmer's place and they will say, this is not mine, it is of the farmer. Farmer can't be covered under Essential Commodity Act. Those kind of things have been done under Essential Commodity Act. We studied the past situation. Essential Commodity Act never moderated prices. It never curtailed inflation. We have seen onion prices in this country have increased by 200%, 300%. But Essential Commodity Act was not able to control that. And I got a statistics from Ministry of Consumer Affairs that the conviction rate under Essential Commodity Act is less than 0.4%. So if conviction rate is not there, so what is the purpose your act is serving? So all these things were discussed, that the benefit from this act is very, very small, but cost is very, very large. We are not getting investment in logistics, which are very, very important. So as a result, when Government of India has stopped rice and wheat, so we stabilize its price immediately. But private sector in India, we do not allow them to have more stock than certain quantity. They always have this fear that if I have more, government comes with this Essential Commodity Act, what will I do? You see those kind of conditions. So just to keep those kind of things, this Essential Commodity Act has been brought, and it is more of a concern to the consumers. So many consumer group, they just discussed with me that what about our concern? Farmer concern may not be affected, but what about our concern? If price increase suddenly, what is the way out? So I told them, you read this law. I have proposed a trigger which with some tweak has been accepted by the government. If there is increase in prices of potato and onion, only two vegetables under Essential Commodity Act, by 100% over last 1 year price or average of last 5 years, the trigger says government can think of imposing Essential Commodity Act. Not that it will necessarily impose, it can think of putting that Essential Commodity Act. Secondly, in case of other crops, if there is an increase of 50%, then government can think. Otherwise, law will not allow government to bring in the Essential Commodity Act. But you know that sometime it can happen. Under extraordinary condition, government can impose Essential Commodity Act. And if prices go out of band is everywhere. It's not that no economy is free. When there was we allow economic forces to move within a band. If things go beyond band, then government has to intervene. Government intervene everywhere. So that provision is still kept. Many people criticize that you are still saying trigger all those things. Where is the freedom? So I told them, freedom is always within limits. There is never unlimited freedom for everything. So here also freedom within limit is there. That is sufficient for a private person to earn a profit of 50% increase in price. That is more than sufficient. Beyond that, we don't want to give, sorry, gentlemen. So for perishable, we have kept it 100%. So when it happens, you will find investment in cold storage. Onion, we could not create storage. You will find, I know there's a special storage required. So you will find that those kind of things will start happening. So this is what so I will stop by saying that these are really very bold reforms.
Hello,
it requires a lot of courage to bring these reforms. Only he will tell whether they were good for the country or they were not good. Thank you.